So it's long overdue that I review this anime. This review is coming after my, I guess you could say, second time watching through this anime. Technically the first time I only got to episode 15 and then and ended up stopping because I didn't have the DVDs, as I had the UK releases, and volume 4 was just completely unavailable, so I had to stop from there and afterwards because I didn't want to watch the episodes online. That was just completely a no-go question, so I ended up buying the US release, as you can see here, there, which is basically the same edition, which has the entire series on, so I was able to, I won't say marathon through this, but you know, as Sun Wukong knows, if you've seen his review of this show, this is a show that requires a lot of time to dedicate, as it's a kind of show that you really have to get the right mindset and, you know, really get yourself involved and invested within the series. And because of that, it takes a very long time to watch. You know, it's only 26 episodes long, you know, the standard amount for any other series out there. But it's such an emotionally draining series to watch, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll explain, you know, further in the review. But it just takes a long time to really take in, you know, this series, because each episode basically tells its own story. But before we talk about the story and the overall, you know, the overall plot of the series and what it's about, this is basically a 26 episode series produced by Artland, which, according to me, it's a relatively unknown series, animation production studio. The only notable titles that I can think of that they've worked on that, you know, you may recognise are Hitman Reborn and Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is something I haven't seen yet. But they only started trading under the name, or I guess it's to say producing works under the name Artland from 2010. So before that, prior to that, I don't know what name they were under. But yeah, Artland is a relatively unknown studio, you know, from what I know of anyway. But basically, Mushishi is adapted from the manga of the same name by Yuki Uroshibara, which is published in the well-renowned Monthly Afternoon, which is the seinen anthology in Japan, which publishes so many fantastic titles. You know, you've got Eden is an Endless World, Oh My Goddess, Parasite, Genshiken, Blame, Knights of Sidonia, quite a few Tsutomu Nihei titles, Blade of the Immortal Vinland Saga, just to name a few. This is a magazine that thrives for the best, most unique stories, and this is where the original manga for Mushishi was published. And the great thing about the Mushishi anime, sorry, is that it tells the story of the manga panel for panel. There's no filler in it, you know, at all, from, you know, episode 1 all the way up to episode 26. It's basically just a carbon copy of the manga. And I suppose that can be a strength and a weakness, you know, in you know, both in parts. But yeah, I guess if I had to describe, you know, the genre of what this is, I guess you could say it's like an occult detective, but it's more of like a mystery, you know, kind of supernatural story as well. Basically, it centers around Ginko, who you can see on the front cover there. And Ginko is a Mushi master. Basically, Mushi is the Japanese word for bug. And basically, he can see these creatures called Mushi, which are basically ethereal beings that exist on the plane between the living and the dead. But they are basically the source of all life. They are life in its purest form. You know, in the human world, you know, we acknowledge other animals, we acknowledge plant life, bacteria, but basically Mushi are beings that are not necessarily less developed than this, but basically are a step down from this. And Ginko cleverly puts, you know, the existence of Mushi into an analogy, saying that if humans exist at the tip of the finger, the further you go down, you know, the tendons and everything begin to branch, and you can't really distinguish plant life and animal life from human life. But as soon as you get down to the wrist, everything becomes like microbes and bacteria. But Mushi, basically, further down that line, Mushi are the closest thing to the heart. And that just shows you that, you know, Mushishi are these really mysterious beings that, you know, are not there to be understood, but basically there to simply exist. And Ginko basically travels from place to place, you know, in what we assume to be like feudal era or Edo period Japan, basically solving mysteries and helping people out who are basically plagued by these Mushi, because these Mushi are neither good or evil. They basically are there to exist. They are there to survive. And because of this, they end up interacting with humans in positive and negative ways. and Ginkgo is there to basically solve these mysteries because not everybody can see these Mushi, and there's a reason why Ginkgo needs to travel from place to place. You know, and it serves as a good plot device. Because Ginkgo actually attracts Mushi because he's a Mushi master and he can resonate with these Mushi on a spiritual level and see them and be able to interact with them. He ends up attracting them, and that is, you know, that's the plot device that comes into play where Ginkgo has to move from place to place, because if he stays in one place too long, then these Mushi will, you know, will be drawn towards him and will affect everybody around him. So, you know, he basically has to move from place to place in order to protect the people and those who are around him, and that's one thing that's really tragic about Ginkgo's character. You know, the fact that he can't, you know, he's got no place to stay, he's got no home that he can call his own. He has no, you know, family or really close friends. He just travels, you know, constantly. He's always on the move, and that makes for really interesting stories as well, because we get to, you know, see so many different types of Mushi. Visit so many different, you know, places, you know, in, you know, around Japan, and we get to see so many different characters who, you know, are affected in different ways by these Mushi. You have Mushi that, you know, cause, you know, crippling diseases. You have Mushi that can, you know, like bring people back to life. Mushi that, you know, basically live off people like parasites. You know, really interesting and unusual Mushi that exist. You know, sometimes Mushi don't even, you know, appear as like life, you know, actual forms. You know, some look like rainbows, or some look like mist. You know, some look like worms and, you know, leaves and things like that. Mushishi are such, or not Mushishi, Mushi, the creatures are such versatile creatures, and the way Yuki Urushibara, the original mangaka who wrote this, uses, you know, these creatures, it just makes for a really interesting story. But one thing that I was surprised with Mushi is actually how depressing it is, because a lot of the stories that are contained within one episode, a lot of them don't actually end the way you would like them to end, you know, given that they don't have a happy ending. A lot of the episodes end on a really sad note, and, you know, because of that, Ginkgo just has to, you know, pick up whatever pieces, you know, of people who is left and just basically move on. And, you know, just accept the fact that, you know, some things he just can't fix, you know, some things he just can't resolve. You know, he ends up solving mysteries only to find out that he can't actually physically do anything to help it, because it's literally just the ebb and flow of life. And, you know, he can't dictate the will of the Mushi, because the Mushi are just there. They're not there to purposely hurt people. He just accepts that the Mushi are there, and people will be, you know, damaged by them, and there's nothing he can do to stop them. So he just moves on, and, you know, that's basically how it is from start to finish. There's no overarching plot to the series. There's just episodic episodes, and there's very few reoccurring characters. The reoccurring characters that you do see are actually quite interesting characters. Like, he does have one friend who's basically an antiques collector, and he collects, you know, strange and unusual items. And you sometimes see Ginkgo go to him just for advice, or, you know, anytime he's stumped, you know, when he's come across a Mushi that he doesn't understand or he's never heard about before, you'll see him go to his friend, this, you know, unusual, you know, collector of, you know, unique items, and basically, you know, they'll kind of toss around ideas. So that's one thing that's interesting about the series. If I had to give some, you know, negatives to this series, it's that a lot of the character designs kind of look the same. You know, it's difficult sometimes to distinguish one character from another, because, you know, there's so many characters in this show, you know, that basically just, you know, appear for like one episode. All the character models just end up kind of looking really similar, which is, you know, something I guess you could say is negative about the art style. But overall, the show is fantastic. The CGI works really well with, you know, the traditional hand-drawn animation. Because it's quite a modern show. I think it's, you know, around 10 years old or something like that. But yeah, this so far is my favourite anime. I can say that, you know, without shadow of a doubt. I absolutely love this anime. It's massively unique. I highly recommend anybody to check this out. I'm really looking forward to watching the second season of the anime, which isn't canon, I guess you could say, because I don't know if the original mangaka had any you know, direction in the writing of the series. I don't know what it's like, so you know, I'll be watching that on Crunchyroll at some point. But yeah, Mushishi is a wholly unique anime. It's a totally different experience to anything you will ever watch. You know, I can guarantee you that. And, you know, it is very underrated. I know Watch Mojo recently did a video of underrated anime titles, most of which I didn't really agree with, because, you know, a lot of the you know, whatever. That's another discussion. But Mushishi was on that list, and that's one of the animes that was on that list that I really agreed with. You know, which I agreed was very underrated. So yeah, that's been my review of Mushishi, and there's probably a lot more I could have talked about with this review, but I just wanted to, you know, finally talk about it, because you know, I was kind of racking my brain as to, you know, to think really what to talk about with this review, because it's such a unique series. So yeah, just drop me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've read the manga or watched the anime to this, you know, throw me your thoughts. So yeah, that's might be my review of Mushishi. If you want to buy this, it's still available online. You know, you can buy the US Save Edition. It costs around $10 or £10. Also, if you're interested in buying the manga's out of print, but sometimes prices fluctuate. So if you're interested in buying the manga or just manga generally, you can check out my book depository affiliate link. You can buy basically cheap manga with free worldwide delivery, and I get commission off every sale. So that link is in the description below. So yeah, thank you for watching, and see you later.